Hello and welcome back to the Football Chat podcast. It's episode 117 today, where we'll be previewing the FA Cup final between Manchester City and Manchester United. Very exciting game this, I would say. There's a chance we were going to get someone like a Burnley, a Sheffield United and Brighton, a surprise. But I think seeing the two Manchester clubs in the final is a very exciting game.
Yeah, I mean, Manchester derby at Wembley, domestic cup final. What more could you want, really?
Yeah, and of course, on aggregate this season, the sides have provided a 7-5, I believe. A 6-3 and a 2-1. So an insane amount of goals scored between the two games that they've played so far. Hopefully, we get another game that emulates that sort of goal-scoring, absolute glout of goals. But yeah, overall, I think it's going to be a good game. It's going to be interesting from a tactical point of view to see how both managers line up. We've seen this season how, obviously, in one game Guardiola got the better of Ten Hag, and the other Ten Hag got the better of Guardiola. I think it's going to rely on individuals as well. I think Haaland, obviously, could make a huge difference. Marcus Rashford, if he's firing, could make a huge difference. But yeah, who do you think will be the most influential player in the game?
Oh, it's a no-brainer, really, isn't it? I mean, if City can get the ball to Erling Haaland, then I think they'll be all right. I think in terms of his goal scoring, he'll have the most. He'll have the, what's the word? He can change the game, but I think it's about those players that get the ball to him. And to be honest, I don't know which one it's going to be, because I don't know who's going to start. It could be Foden, Grealish, Mahrez, De Bruyne,
Bernardo Silva.
Gundogan, Bernardo Silva. That's 6 players there that all have the ability to turn the game on its head and get the ball to Erling Haaland, who will score because it's Erling Haaland.
Yeah.
United, they don't quite have that. They've got Rashford, mate, and
I think Rashford is prolific though. If you get him in the right position, he'll score.
Bruno Fernandes, maybe if he's on his day, he's all right. I just don't look at anyone that has that ability to change the game. As a team, though, they can work together and they can try and pull a result across the line.
It's going to be pivotal that United keep it as low scoring as possible early. They just shut up shops, try and break down City's play. Because if you let them get into their rhythm, let them get into their style, then you cause a few issues for yourself. So just put those early tackles in. Try and break up City's play and then see what you get from there. But it's going to be difficult for Manchester United. They're playing an incredible Man City side. We've mentioned many times in the pod how you could argue they're the best side we've ever seen.
Yeah, they are.
Because they just take all the aspects of Guardiola's Barcelona tiki-taka system, combine it with this English physicality, and it's a system which is proving really difficult to beat.
I think that's the one thing that with against Man City, the two things that can be on your side is if A, you work harder, and B, you're stronger. Because if you get in there early doors, get some tackles in, be physical, be strong. If you get onto them, they're not going to like that. And if you start to disrupt, if they can't get into a rhythm because you keep, get the little fouls here and there, maybe, just a few nudges. If you disrupt
it's the sort of role you want Casemiro in, isn't it? Exactly what you want to do. Just getting in those little challenges here and there on Bruno Fernandes, on Marcus, on not Bruno Fernandes, he plays for him, on Jack Grealish, people like that, Erling Haaland, just annoying them.
One thing they don't want Casemiro to do, which he's done a couple of times this season, is go over the top and get himself sent off.
Yeah.
So
Casemiro's going to be pivotal. Yeah. I think we speak about Haaland as City's most important player. I would say United's is Casemiro. You look at the difference between when he's on the pitch, when he's off the pitch for United. When he's playing for Manchester United, United are an incredibly strong team.
Yeah.
But when he's either off the pitch, injured, or if he's having a bad day, think back to Liverpool, Manchester United earlier in the season, a 7-0 victory. When he's having a bad day, it can prove to be very costly for United.
For me, that's the worry for Manchester United. They've proven this season that they can go head-to-head with Man City. They can beat them on their day. But when they're not on their day, they lose 6-3. So they have to turn up. They have to perform. Every single player has to perform. And they've got to provide a good performance. Because if not, City will just roll them over and it'll be absolutely waltz in the park.
Could you see that happening? Could you see City winning this by a comfy margin? Or do you think United will put up that fight?
I think... I think United can put up the fight. I think they will. They've already been to Wembley once this season. They overcame Newcastle.
So
they've already got a domestic trophy. They've already got a domestic cup. They want another one, and I think they'll work hard for it. But the problem is, it's about mentality. If they concede 1 or 2 early, they could end up losing 3 or 4-0.
But even at 1 or 2, that game's unrecoverable, really. At that point, they're done.
But we say that, and they went 1-0 down to City at Old Trafford, and then they could put
Yeah, but that's 2-0 though, so it's a long way back for Manchester United.
Yeah, 2-0 is a long way back, but again, it's it could be.
Against other sides, then maybe, but Manchester City just looks
final. If you got to do is take a draw, and you're off to penalties.
Yeah, and then you have that lottery. Equally, United's record on penalties has not been stunning in recent years.
They did get through the FA Cup semi-final against Brighton on penalties, so
they did, but Brighton's pens were
they weren't great,
not stunning. But yeah, I think should we look back through both teams' paths to the final?
I think it'll speak volumes this because I'll be honest, I think City got a favourite. I mean, they got Sheffield United in the semi-finals, but they have waltzed through these stages. Whereas United have found a few challenges along the way.
If we go back to January, of course, out of the hat early, and they drew Chelsea in the FA Cup. Quite a difficult tie, you would say.
Usually.
Not this season, but usually. And that was a comfy 4-0 victory for Manchester City, dispatched of Chelsea comfortably. Then they drew Arsenal, and City fans must have been cursing at this point because their luck was incredibly unlucky.
It's not really unlucky. It's not really unlucky for City because they rolled them over anyway.
Yeah, well, they beat Arsenal 1-0, a Nathan Ake goal, the difference in that game. Then they drew Bristol City, who they pumped 3-0, before drawing Burnley, who they pumped 6-0, which is one less than they scored against RB Leipzig in the Champions League, by the way. And then in the semi-finals, Sheffield United, who they beat 3-0. So a lot of comfy victories on the way. They've only one game was a 1-0 margin. The rest were 3-0, 4-0, 3-0 and 6-0.
Mental. That's absolutely mental.
They've just pumped everyone they've played.
Yeah.
And now they play Manchester United.
Yeah. United haven't had it that easy.
No, but that's because of the side they are. They got a much kinder draw. First round, Everton, not a challenge really. They beat them 3-1. Quite a comfy win. And interesting in that game, Cristiano Ronaldo scored. No, Cristiano Ronaldo didn't score. It's Rashford. I misread that horrendously. But he left by this point, hasn't he?
Yeah.
But yeah, 3-1 Manchester United. Then they drew Reading at the end of January. Beat them 3-1 again. But they're conceding these games, which is a bit interesting. But still a nice comfy win. They progress where they play West Ham, and again it's a 3-1 victory for Manchester United. Is it going to be 3-1 again? It is. As they play Fulham, it's 3-1 again.
I mean that game got handed to them on a plate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really know what Mitrovic, Willian,
and Marcus Silva,
they all just decided to have a...
Willian handballed it to stop a certain goal. And
red card.
Pushed the ref.
Red card and 8 game suspension.
And then Marcus Silva lost his head at the fact 2 of his players and sent off and he joined them.
Indeed. And then, of course, FA Cup semi-finals, Manchester United and Brighton drew, but United won on penalties.
Not been easy. They've conceded in every single tie. Apart from the Brighton one, but they've only gone on penalties.
Yeah.
It's not been great. They also got lucky. I think they got lucky in the Fulham one. The fact that Fulham threw that away, because that was 1-1 with 20-30 minutes to go. And Fulham kind of just got 3 red cards and rolled over.
Yeah. Well, Mitrovic scored in the 50th minute, and then it was 75th minute, the penalty.
Yeah.
Then 77th minute for Sabitzer against a 9-man Fulham, and then Fernandes added a third in the 96th. He loves goals.
Also, I didn't realize Fulham went 1-0 up.
Yeah, Alexander Mitrovic.
It's even worse. It wasn't like they were drawing.
Then they picked up a double red card in the 72nd minute, which is never helpful.
No.
And it was sort of a lost cause after that, because he did a quick fire double, and then that was
United have scraped through at times. City have kind of just turned up, knocked a few goals in and gone home again. That's what they do.
Yeah, City pumped everyone
It's so casual. It's so casual and it's so easy for them. United, maybe they can spring a surprise.
I mean, you'd have to make City favourites. I don't think there's any doubt about that. They 100%. Are 100 on the strongest side. I think as long as they play how they have every game this season, they're going to win this game quite comfortably. This could easily be another 3-1 victory.
But it could also be...
No, it's Man United that win 3-1. Could be 4-0. But...
It could also be a very close game. If United can push them to extra time, to penalties, who knows? It's potluck on penalties.
Yeah.
You can never know who's going to win on penalties.
What do you think the City team looks like? Do they have a slightly weakened side with a Champions League final on the horizon, or do they go completely full strength?
I mean, they've got a good enough squad. They could play 2 different sides in a still challenge.
Yeah.
And no disrespect to United or Inter, they're not the hardest opponents.
I think there's a few players who play both games. I reckon Rodri plays both. I think Haaland Ederson,
I
Stones.
Think if it was, say it was Liverpool in the FA Cup final tomorrow, and then it was Real Madrid in a week's time, the Champions League final, Pep would have to think about it. But because it is Manchester United who have struggled, who City have pummeled this year, and Inter Milan, who I don't know how they got to the Champions League final, very favourable draw.
I could see a Foden or a Mahrez starting just to give players like De Bruyne or...
That's a world-class player, Riyad Mahrez.
Yeah.
Like, we might,
it might be rotated into the side.
He slots into any other team. It's mental.
Interesting. I think he slots into every team other than Arsenal. I don't think he starts over Saka.
Maybe not.
We're interesting debate actually, but they're very.
That's the thing. They've got enough players. They could bench De Bruyne, Grealish, and Bernardo Silva, and just play Mahrez, Foden, and
Jesus Christ,
Palmer. I mean, even Palmer would be good enough. I think he could start tomorrow.
I don't think
he will start, but he could, and I still think City would win.
Probably, yeah, because of the quality around him. I don't think Cole Palmer's going to be the one late in the top corner. To be fair,
Wembley's where heroes are made. Someone's got to step up for United.
Cole Palmer had to.
Does it help that United have already been there? They know what it takes now. They've done it this year. They want to do it again.
It would if they were playing Leicester or West Ham, but they're not.
No.
They're playing a Manchester City side who have won everything for years, and they have been to Wembley more than enough over the last decade. I just don't see how Man United win this, really. I think it's going to take some mind-boggling tactics from Ten Hag, because I think their personnel at worst... What, goes 3-2-4-1?
Yeah.
No one's tried it yet. Would that work?
Who knows? It's an absolute messy midfield.
The problem is City know how to play their system, so it would... But there's got to be something that stops them. There's got to be some sort of formation which can stop Manchester City.
They're not unstoppable.
What that is, we don't know.
No, and United need to hope that Eric Ten Hag does know.
Could it be just like a classic 4-4-2? Has anyone played 4-4-2 against City this season?
Sam Allardyce, let's get him in.
What's a Man United? Get him
in an Inter.
Right. Give him a week and a half to prepare, yeah.
I think it's going to be an interesting game, though. City could waltz it, but I don't know if they will. I think United won't let that happen.
Yeah, should we do an early prediction? I mean, we'll definitely do a prediction on stream, but I'll probably have forgotten this by the time we're live on Saturday. Make sure to join us there, by the way. We'll be live from 2:30, right, for a 3 o'clock kickoff?
Yes.
Is it 3 o'clock?
Yes, 3 o'clock. Same time as the Women's Champions League final as well.
Yes, and the the Spanish Grand Prix qualifying. So a lot going on Saturday.
And it's the
probably
finale of League One.
Yeah, I was going to say, those two.
There's a lot going on Saturday. But yeah, I'm gonna... Do you know what? I'm not gonna predict it in a sense. I'm gonna say we're going beyond the 90 minutes.
Oh.
I'm not gonna say penalties. I'm gonna say extra time.
Okay.
And whoever wins it wins it. I think United just go part the bus, remain strong, remain resilient. They go like 6 players on a yellow card. They're just gonna keep wiping City out. Last ditch tackles, tactical fouls. It's going to be very combative from United. City won't be able to get into a rhythm, and it'll be maybe 0-0, maybe 1-1, because United could hit a counter and City will get a
I can see it. I'm going to go Man City 4, Manchester United 0 though.
Yeah, that's.
I just think City looks so good, and if they go a couple up, we've seen how United capitulate this season. I don't think City will throw everything at the game. I don't think they'll be desperate for a 7, but I think if they can find their rhythm, United start to get torn apart. Casemiro can't mark everyone, and then eventually Haaland will score, and then they just go on a rampage from there.
I mean, that would speak volumes, because a few years ago they beat Watford 6-0 in this final, and it was like, well, of course that's happening because Watford, if they can score 4 past United, their closest rival, not their rivals
in terms of proximity, closest.
That would speak volumes.
Yeah. Should we get into some other things in this podcast? By the way, guys, obviously this is our second podcast of the week because we have no predictions, so we thought we'd do a preview for the final instead. We didn't do any rumour mill content on the season.
Get that rumour mill open.
The Premier League season review. So look back through and we'll go back and watch that podcast if you haven't already. It was an excellent episode, if I do say so myself. As for some transfer news, well, we've got the interesting news of Mason Mount, I think, to start with. Manchester United have reportedly agreed terms with Mason Mount, so he has agreed to join Manchester United. It's just whether the clubs can come to an agreement. My question for today's episode is, how much is Mason Mount worth? both to Chelsea and in the current scope of the market.
I mean, the fact that Chelsea are letting him go, I think, he's struggled. Don't get me wrong. He's had a tough season, but everyone has. I couldn't tell you a Chelsea player that hasn't had a tough season, because even if they played well, they found it tough. I think he's one of those players. He's irreplaceable. I think he's on his day.
I don't think he's irreplaceable. He's not Erling Haaland
on his day.
or De Bruyne.
I think he has enough to be a world-class footballer.
He does, but
I think that is a massive steal if Man United can pick him up.
So reportedly it'll be around that 55 million, 60 million mark. Given he's got a year left on his contract, I think that makes a lot of sense.
That's an absolute steal.
Yeah, I think he also works in Ten Hag's system. When Ten Hag likes to have this sort of, it almost becomes a 4-1-4-1 in possession. And with Mount and Bruno as the 8s, that's an incredible creative spark in there. They're both players who are good in the press. They're both players who are good on the ball. I think they could, and they're both good goal scorers as well. Exactly what they need in that role when they don't actually have a striker. Obviously, I'd imagine they'll sign a striker at some point this window. Especially if Martial and Weghorst doesn't stay.
To pay that, kind of 55, 60 million, fee for a player who, a couple of years ago would have been probably closer to 75, 80 million.
Yeah.
That's a bargain, that. And he's a very good player.
Yeah.
And under the right manager, in the right squad, in the right system, he can be an absolute baller.
Yeah, we've got loads to run through because we've obviously got Manchester United's renewal of Diego Dallo. I think that's a good renewal there. I think that's good for them. Season. We've got Mateo Kovacic, another bit of Chelsea news. Manchester City apparently interested in Kovacic. Kovacic, I believe, only has a year left on his contract as well. It's going to be a long summer for Chelsea fans. We're going to sell some players. His deal does expire next year.
Under Pep Guardiola, Mateo Kovacic could become one of the best midfielders in the world.
He definitely could, yeah. Definitely could. And I think it's a good bit of business for City.
It's brilliant.
They're apparently going to lose Ilkay Gundogan on a free. Obviously, his contract expires this month.
Wow, what a replacement.
I think Kovacic is an adequate replacement. Gundogan, though, where do you see him going? He's been linked with Arsenal. He's been linked with Barcelona very strongly.
He could go to Arsenal and with Zinchenko and try and win them the league. But would he want to challenge against City? I don't know. He could go Barca and just dominate the Liga.
Wouldn't he?
But I mean, Mateo Kovacic, the other reason City have signed him, are going to try and sign him, let's be honest, they need a Croatian in their squad to win the Champions League.
Exactly. If they lose Champions League this summer, we know why, and that's why they're bringing in Mateo Kovacic. Fair enough, Man City. In other midfielders news, they seem to be dominating the headlines this week because Youri Tielemans has confirmed he will leave Leicester on a free.
What a surprise.
Well, I just thought it would be interesting to talk about where do you think he goes?
Anywhere. He is going to have so many people want him. He's such a good player.
But does he get a Champions League move? I would say maybe Newcastle, but that because I think they're more likely to go for Maddison over a Tielemans, and then I don't think Arsenal would go for him. I think they've got target. They want Declan Rice.
He's not a Brighton player. He's not a Liverpool. I don't think Liverpool.
Well, Brighton have already signed Dahoud and Milner, so they'll be overloaded in there. Liverpool, I think they're going to target. So they wanted Mason Mount, they want Alexis McAllister, they want Ugarte. At the moment, Ugarte's either going Chelsea or PSG. Mount's going Man United, and McAllister's probably going to join Liverpool. But they're not exactly getting all their targets in there.
I don't think he'll go there. He's not really a Villa signing either. I don't think.
Because I think he could start in the middle for you.
He could, but. There's a lot of options in there already for Villa. They need to get rid of some point.
Yeah, they've already focused on a new striker.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I think Tielemans is going to be interesting. I could see him at somewhere like Luton Town. Imagine the scenes of Youri Tielemans lining up for Luton.
Brentford?
Maybe. They're quite frugal, Brentford, on a free. That could be good. Could see him abroad. Could see Juventus. Or in Inter Milan, depending if they win the Champions League.
If they don't get Rice.
They're going to get Rice. They're also going to get Tielemans.
Could the West Ham.
They've already got Conrad Lima from Leipzig on a free.
They'll probably go sign all the Dortmund players. Just make sure they don't
Could Dortmund go for Tielemans to replace Jude Bellingham? Not as he doesn't do the same things. Don't get me wrong. Very different players, but a midfielder option in there.
Maybe they can convince him that they think they're going to challenge for the league because if it's anything like this year, they can challenge, but they're rubbish.
Yeah, fair enough. One last topic then. Karim Benzema.
Oh, this is a joke.
He's been dominating the headlines because Karim Benzema has reportedly received a £400 million offer from the Saudi Arabian government to go and play football over there. Obviously, he gets to pick his club. He gets to pick his city, which is mental, by the way. Imagine Rishi Sunak gets on the blower to Messi and says, yeah, I'll pay you 400 million quid.
You can pick whatever club you want to play for in the Premier League.
Yeah,
I'll give you 400 million. Have fun, mate. Where do you want to live? London? Edinburgh? You can go to Edinburgh.
No one's lived in Edinburgh.
Newcastle?
Sorry if there's anyone from Edinburgh watching, that was a joke. But, okay.
It's mental.
I mean,
they just make their own rules.
A 35-year-old, 2-year, he's 35 now, 2-year deal. He'll finish when he's 37.
Can FIFA not step in or something? Because how is that allowed? How can the government buy a player?
I don't know. But equally, most of the clubs are, I imagine there's a state-owned club.
Yeah.
Or something like that in Saudi. I'm not too sure about
Where's he going to go? Al-Nazir, Al-Sad, Al-Hill.
But there's this interesting conversation emerging how owners could use their Saudi clubs where there's no FFP to exploit the market. So there's been, I saw a conversation the other day about this, how actually if Newcastle wanted to sign Kylian Mbappe, for example, they could sign him to Al Hilal
loan
at 500 million a year for him. So he'd be minted, which would be an incentive. The money isn't coming out of a Premier League account where there's FFP, and then they just loan him over to Newcastle. Both clubs, I believe, are owned.
Surely someone would stop.
By the Saudi government.
There's got to be someone in football that can intervene here.
Well, surely that's a loophole that needs to be closed. How do you close it? How do you stop clubs loaning between players? Because if you say that clubs can't loan, like affiliated clubs can't loan, then that cuts the Chelsea and Vitesse link.
Stop governments buying people.
How though?
The rule, right? New rule. Governments cannot buy footballers.
But they don't have power over governments. The FIFA don't have the power over the Saudi government.
Someone's got to have something. It's got his son. Who's the big bloke in the world that can stop them all?
Biden, and I think he's got more pressing matters. He doesn't know what football is. Did you see him doing that US World Cup promo? That's on the White House when he boots it in the air.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Isn't it like a international, world leader? We're the world leader.
Sorry, you'd think if there was a world leader, we'd have probably heard of him.
Yeah. Someone's got to stop them though, because they can ruin football.
Well, yeah. That is a worry, isn't it? But I guess that
is ludicrous though. How a government has spent $4 million on football.
I think it's more ludicrous that the Saudi regime can buy a Premier League football club in the first place. But yeah, congratulations to Newcastle. They've been good this season. They could end up with Mbappe. But Benzema, do you think he'll go?
Oh yeah, 400 million.
He's literally
2 years. Pick his club.
2 years and he's half a billionaire.
Yeah, he can pick his club. He's going to be loving it.
Yeah, I mean it's ridiculous sums of money.
It is ridiculous. I wouldn't go, but that's pretty over.
Do you think that's the best way to build up a domestic league?
No,
is to splash cash. But the US did it. They brought in Beckham. They
didn't spend. The clubs did that, but I don't like the way it's being done over there.
Yeah, but the clubs did it because that was an incentive pushed by the organisers, the runners of the league. I don't know what you'd call them.
Who are the runners of the Saudi League?
The government. They run everything in Saudi.
They run the football league.
Who else does it?
Do they not have the Saudi FA?
I don't know if the Saudi have an FA.
I just think it's ludicrous, to be honest.
And even if they do, that's probably corrupted. Anyway, let's be honest. But yeah, I think it's going to be interesting to see which players make the move over there. It's like when China sort of exploded into life when they went and... I mean, when they were almost convinced a prime Diego Costa to move there, that was when it sort of peaked, because they were able to offer him they were able to pay £50 million. They're offering him ridiculous wages.
It's getting mental now. Money in football is getting mental.
But do you think that Saudi pose a realistic threat to the footballing landscape?
I really hope not.
Because if they can use their money and power to attract talent, we've spoken how no one can match the Premier League because they don't have the broadcast revenue, they don't have the fans, they don't have the support, they don't have the money to compete. But we've never spoken actually how a global giant in terms of riches, but not one that's known for football, could completely change the landscape just by pumping money into the game. They've already got Ronaldo, one of the biggest players in the world, the face of football for many fans. They could get Lionel Messi this summer. He's linked with a move to Al Hilal.
Really
they could end up with Benzema. The three best players, I would argue, of the last generation of football, could all be playing in Saudi Arabia this summer.
It's embarrassing.
It's interesting, isn't it? That one of the most despotic, is that the word? I can't remember. A horrible regime is able to promote itself like this.
They would never, ever in a million years go anywhere near that country if it wasn't for the money they were being given.
Obviously.
Messi wouldn't go down and play there he wouldn't go to Saudi Arabia.
He's not doing it for the love of the club, is he?
He's not going down. He's not playing for him for 50 grand a week. He's going for him to get
50 million a week.
It's mental, absolutely mental.
But could it be a potential stumbling block? Do you think? Could it change? Could the Saudi league be one of the strongest out there?
They convince enough people, and that is disappointing.
Would there ever be a point? What would there ever be a point where you actively watch the Saudi league?
No.
Okay. Because I think people will start, if they get players like Messi, if they get Benzema, I think that is the way it will go, won't it? People will start actively following and watching the Saudi league.
Have fun.
You know, when you're going through London, you're not going to see people with Barcelona shirts. You're going to see people with Al Hilal shirts.
At that point, I'd run to Iceland.
Right, what's football's going on in Iceland?
I don't know, but it's going to be exciting, isn't it?
It's going to be quite exciting, to be fair.
Any Icelandish people? What football
I
clubs
think
you
their
got
name's
there?
Icelandic, but...
Icelandic people, not Icelandic. Icelandic people.
Yeah.
Let us know what football's going on in Iceland. We'll hop over soon.
Fair enough. And then, round to replacement, this is the more interesting news for us as Chelsea fans. Kai Havertz is reported being lined up as a potential replacement for Karim Benzema. Firstly, from a Real Madrid point of view, I'd like to say it's actually a good bit of business.
Oh, it's brilliant.
Because I think he's a magical player.
This is what annoys
if you
me.
use him as a false nine in that role, with Vinny and Rodrigo, he can link up with them.
Yeah, it's another potentially world-class player that Chelsea are going to let go. Look what he's in the Champions League final. That's how good he is.
Ultimately, he doesn't suit the current system.
Not at Chelsea, no. And he's
good
been
enough
rubbish.
for the Prem right now.
He has been rubbish this year, but he is a magnificent player.
But
he has the ability to win games.
Does he go down in Chelsea? Is he a Chelsea legend?
Yeah, he scored in the Champions League final.
That's the thing. All it takes is one goal sometimes. Fernando Torres was crap, but he scored in that semi-final against Barcelona, and he's immortalised himself as a Chelsea legend.
Absolutely brilliant.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting. I think Havertz is a good bit of business because he'll suit that role perfectly, a false nine. I do worry that Chelsea are letting go of a lot of world-class talent. We let Mason Mount, Kai Havertz, and don't sign João Felix all in the same window. That feels like three players who we could be watching playing for world-class sides over the next few years. And we're just letting them go.
Yeah.
But ultimately, if it means we can rebuild the squad to be better than it is right now, I take it. How much do you think Kai Havertz is worth? He's still got a few years left on his deal.
How much did Chelsea pay for him?
90.
He's not worth that.
I think.
70?
I think it was something below that, then rising to 90. So it may not.
70 at a high.
I think you can get more than 70. It depends really who you're offering to, but
maybe 70, 80.
Kai Havertz.
I don't see getting any higher.
Okay,
than that.
£75 million for Chelsea. I think we could turn a profit. I think you can get 80, 90.
Maybe.
Mate, Benfica got 120 for João Felix after one season where he scored a couple Europa League goals.
They did do that.
You can definitely
maybe
get 90 million
80, 90
for Kai Havertz, but it's going to be interesting.
Yeah.
It'll be very interesting to see how this summer pans out. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe and keep the conversation going in the YouTube comments down below. I want to hear from you guys what your thoughts are on all the things, all the topics we've discussed today, mainly the FA Cup final preview, of course, but if you want to talk about any of the other things, the transfers, Benzema, the Saudi regime, any of that, you're more than welcome to get involved in our comments. If you're listening on Spotify or any other audio platform of your choice, then you can press the fun buttons to do fun things and tell those various platforms that you're loving the show, and then they can put us in their fun lists and top 10s, and then everyone will listen to us everywhere. That's all for us today, though. Thank you all very much for watching or listening, and we'll see you next time.
See ya.